So I want to talk to you a little bit about the option Greeks. So we're talking about, mainly today, we're going to talk about delta, theta, and vega, and we're going to talk about how those three Greeks, how they can help you determine which option strategies you should be using depending on the situation. So let the Greeks determine the strategy, how the Greeks can help you pick the right strategy for the right situation. So let's go ahead and do a quick refresher of the Greeks. Now I have done in-depth videos on all the Greeks in the past, so if you need a refresher on either delta, theta, or vega, or all three, go check out my previous videos on these individual Greeks. But a quick refresher, delta is directional risk, theta is time risk, and vega is volatility risk. Now there are hundreds of option strategies you can choose from. There's so many different ways to construct an option strategy using various long and short options, puts versus calls, whatever it happens to be. And because of this, you can get a lot of different combinations of Greek risk. So do you want a strategy that's delta positive or delta negative? Delta positive means you want the underlying stock to go up. Delta negative means you want the underlying stock to go down. You could also put on a delta neutral strategy, meaning you don't really have a directional assumption at all. When it comes to theta, you can have option strategies that benefit from the passage of time. We call these theta positive strategies, or you can have strategies that are hurt by the passage of time. These are theta negative. And you can have option strategies that benefit from a volatility spike. Those are vega positive strategies. And you can have strategies that are really hurt by a volatility spike. These are vega negative strategies. So it's pretty easy to remember if a strategy is positive or negative for any of these Greeks. For example, delta, I have this column here, delta is positive for, negative for. So delta is positive for bullish strategies, you want the underlying stock to go up, and it's negative for bearish strategies where you want the underlying stock to go down. So any trade that is a bullish trade is delta positive. Any trade that's a bearish trade is delta negative. And for theta, theta is positive for short options. Short options benefit from the passage of time. And theta is negative for long options because long options are hurt by the passage of time. And finally, vega. Vega is positive for long options. Long options actually like volatility to increase, but vega is negative for short options because short options, of course, we want volatility to collapse over the life of the trade. So what I want you to do, especially if you're new to options trading, you're trying out all these various option strategies because there's so many of them out there, but have you ever really stopped to think what the ramifications as far as delta, theta, and vega for any of these strategies that you're trying out are? For example, a short call, and this is an easy one because it's just one option. What is a short call? Well, a short call is delta negative because it's bearish, it's theta positive because it's a short option, and it's vega negative, once again, because it's a short option. And you can do this for any option strategy, not just single leg strategies, but multi-leg strategies. You could do this for strangles and iron condors and butterfly spreads, or whatever you can imagine, ratio spreads. You can figure out whether they're delta positive or negative, theta positive or negative, vega positive or negative. And the reason I'm making this video today is because in certain situations, you're going to have very strong assumptions of what the market is about to do. And you want to make sure that you're playing the correct strategies for these events. So on August 5th, 2024, just a couple of Mondays ago, right, we had that big market drop. The market dropped about 6% and the VIX spiked all the way to 65. That was a huge volatility spike. And, because it's such an unusual event, there are some things that we can kind of predict. When the market is doing normal things, you really can't predict what the next move of the market is going to be. But sometimes the market kind of gets out of whack and you kind of know that, you kind of can figure out where it's going next. And in the second bullet point, you can see, while it's impossible to reliably predict direction, delta, in individual companies, market indices like the S&P 500, they tend to go up over time. We know this. The broad market, the total stock market tends to go up over time. It has a positive drift. Now, with individual companies, there's no such thing. An individual company can, of course, go all the way to zero. It can go bankrupt, but the total stock market can't go bankrupt. So there's always this positive drift if you're trading products like the S&P 500. Also worth noting is that after any kind of violent sell-off, any kind of sharp sell-off like we had on August 5th, the market does have a tendency to rebound from those kinds of events, and it typically rebounds rather quickly from such an event. So if you were putting on a trade after August 5th, what kind of delta trade should you be putting on? Should you be putting on delta positive trades where you want the market to go up, or delta negative trades where you want the market to go down? Well, after a violent sell-off, obviously the correct trade is to put on a bullish strategy trade. So you want to put on delta positive trades. They make the most sense in this situation. Now, the Greek that is most predictable is theta, the passage of time, because time always marches on. We never have to wonder what time is going to do, right? Tomorrow always comes, right? So theta is a really easy Greek to figure out. The passage of time always helps short options, and it always hurts long options. So as an options trader, what would you prefer to do more of, short options or long options? Ideally, you want to have more short options on than long options, because time always passes, and it would be nice if you benefited from that passage of time. Now let's talk a little bit about Vega. In normal market conditions, volatility is a bit unpredictable. You really don't know if volatility is going to go up or going to go down. When VIX is trading in its kind of normal range, you really don't know where it's going to go next. But after a big crash and a big volatility spike like we had on August 5th, where the VIX was trading below 20 and then all of a sudden in one day it's trading at 65, that means that volatility almost certainly is going to come down. We know that. When volatility has a huge spike like that, it has to come down, because volatility does tend to revert to its mean, to its average price, right? So 65 is way above normal for volatility, so it's going to come down. So if you're putting on a trade after August 5th, after an event like that, should you be putting on a Vega positive trade or a Vega negative trade? Well, obviously you want to put on Vega negative trades, because those are the ones that benefit from high volatility collapsing. So if we add all of this up, after August 5th, what is the most appropriate kinds of option strategies to put on? They are delta positive trades, theta positive trades, and Vega negative trades. So let's talk about three very popular strategies that a lot of you guys were putting on right after August 5th, because these seem to be three of the most common trades that people put on after August 5th, because these strategies people thought were the most appropriate. And I think all three of them are okay strategies for that event, but really one of them I think shines above the other two. So possibly the most popular trade after August 5th that I saw so many options traders putting on were strangles, because strangles are very popular after a volatility spike, because strangles have a short call and a short put, right? It's a short options trades, and you have two short options in the trade. So you get a nice juicy credit. You get a very rich premium for selling that strangle. And because short options benefit from a volatility collapse, strangles make a lot of sense. Also, strangles being a short options position, they are theta positive, meaning they benefit from the passage of time. So the strangle really checks two boxes. It's Vega negative, which we want. It's theta positive, which we want, but is it delta positive? No, strangles are actually delta neutral. They don't have a directional assumption at all. So if the market greatly rebounds, which it tends to do after a crash, right? You could kind of guess that the market was going to come back up in a big way. Well, in that case, you're not really going to capture all of that delta, right? So strangles, they check two of the boxes, but not the third. Another strategy that a lot of people employed after August 5th were simply buying calls, because once the market crashes, everybody assumes it's going to rebound and rebound in a big way. And of course, long calls are great after such an event because they're delta positive trades, meaning they're going to profit from a rebound in price. But the problem with long calls are they're also theta negative, so they're punished by the passage of time, and they're Vega positive, meaning they're punished by the volatility collapse that's also going to come with that market rebound. So now let's talk about what I think is the best strategy to put on after such an event, and that is the short put. Short puts are a great way to play this kind of market crash / volatility spike, right? Because the strangle is great because you're going to benefit from theta and Vega. You probably made money on your strangles. If you put on strangles, you probably made a lot of money on them. You just didn't make as much money as you could have maybe had you chose the put, because strangles, they only have theta and vega working for them. They don't have delta working for them. And the long calls, you probably made money on them because you had delta working for you, but you didn't make as much as you could have because theta and vega were working against the long calls. But the short put, all three are working for you, right? With the short put, all three of the Greeks, delta, theta, and vega, are on our side. And you can quickly figure out if any of your option strategies are positive or negative in delta, theta, and vega. So just go to your trading platform. For example, I'm using TASTYTRADE, and I can see, for example, this short put because I'm monitoring delta, theta, and vega. Let me move my head out of the way. This is delta, this is theta, and this is vega. For example, these three short puts that I sold in Cleveland Cliffs, you can see they're definitely positive delta because it's a bullish trade. They're definitely positive theta because short options have positive theta. They benefit from the passage of time. And they have negative vega because short options want a vol collapse, not a vol increase. And I can do this on any position. For example, I've got this strangle in XBI, which is the biotech sector ETF. A strangle, typically when you put it on, has 0 deltas. It's around a delta neutral trade. You can see right now I'm showing 3 short deltas because obviously the trade is going to move a little bit. So it will lean positive or negative in delta over the life of the trade. But it's essentially a delta neutral trade. You can see theta is positive because a strangle benefits from the passage of time. It's vega negative because short options, again, they want a vol collapse, not a vol increase. So again, this was just a quick little refresher course in the Greeks. And again, you know, after an event, especially a really crazy event where an underlying product makes a big move down or a big move up, you know, usually you can play for the reversal. You know, if it seems like the move it made was just way out of line, then that typically kind of determines where you want to be as far as delta on the trade. Theta, you always want to benefit from the passage of time. And vega typically you want to be vega negative, especially after a vol spike. You know, that's really where you want to put on those vega negative trades. Now, if you want to learn more about the option Greeks and options trading in general, check out my book, The Super Wheel Option Strategy. It's about my favorite option strategy, which is the wheel strategy. You'll find a link to that book in the description below. Also, recently I started a members only Discord channel. You'll find the DT Options Discord channel. I'll link to it in the description below. But that channel, if you sign up, obviously it's a paid channel and it does help support my work as far as my video content and as well as my writings. Also, all the PDFs from every video I've ever made. If you want any of my PDF slideshows, they're available on the Discord after sign up. Also, I plan to be hanging out in the Discord channel for the first hour of the market open. Every day, right? Every day that the market trades, I typically trade the first hour anyway. I'm always in front of a computer for market open. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be hanging out in the Discord voice channel. That way you guys can chat with me. We can talk about what the market is potentially doing that day. You guys can bounce ideas off of me. I can bounce ideas off of you. And hopefully I can help you in your trading. Hopefully you help me in my trading as well. Peace, guys.